The black walls of the corridor locked onto Vor's dreadnought. He had 90 seconds left to live. His tactical implant word. It screamed target locks from 14 different vectors. The unyielding Dominion could not turn. The gap between the black rocks was too narrow. Humanity's 300-year promise was a cage. No warnings, no demands, no escape. The walls closed in to slice the 800-meter ship into 6 pieces. What happens when a conqueror walks into a trap that took 3 centuries to build? Stay close. 19 days earlier, the Galactic Conclave cast a vote. The air in the hammered bronze dome smelled like dry ozone. 847 delegates sat in curved rows. Vor stood in the center of the floor. His skin looked like dried blood. His ceremonial armor bore the sigils of 12 conquered worlds. He demanded the Threnari fleet hand over its weapons. He listed fake trade violations in the Veli's corridor. He demanded full access to their shipyards. He promised peace if they complied. A minor delegate from the Outer Rim stood to object. The Threnari have broken no laws, he said. He raised his datapad to show the trade logs. Vor turned his head. His tactical eye implant whirred loudly. The sound echoed in the silent chamber. Vor placed a heavy hand on his energy pistol. He did not unholster it. He just rested his palm on the grip. The delegate sat back down. No one else spoke. The head of the conclave banged a wooden gavel. The tally board flashed green. 712 to 135. The conclave abandoned 42 billion people to the Vorkai Dominion. The vote was completely legal. Ambassador Dulcath of the Vrethkai stood up. "You are signing 42 billion death warrants," she said. The gavel banged again. Dulcath did not push her button. She stayed in her seat. She folded her gray hands. She refused to participate. She watched Vor walk out of the chamber. She knew what he was going to do. 72 hours later, Vor's ships arrived. They burned 23 systems. They targeted the orbital defense grids first. They hit the major population centers second. They left nothing behind. Vex Koreth sat in the ruins of a planetary relay station. He rubbed a cobalt blue data crystal against his scarred jaw. It was cold. It held the last words of his sister Vila. She died with the 44th Battle Group on the first day of the invasion. Vex pushed a slider on the control board. He broadcast a distress signal on every open frequency. He bypassed the conclave channels. He targeted the deep space bands. He transmitted for 6 days. His rations ran out on day 2. Bridge Officer Tan died on the 3rd day when the backup power failed. Vex dragged Tan's body into the hall. He stripped the copper wire from the ruined comms array. He rerouted the main cables himself. He cut his hands on the sharp metal. Blood dripped onto the console. He used medical tape to secure the connection. He powered the transmitter with a salvaged battery. He tapped the crystal against his jaw. Click, click, click. On the 4th day, he sent a tight beam message to Selenar Prime. He asked the conclave for medical ships. He received an automated out-of-office reply. The bureaucracy was closed for a holiday. On the 5th day, a Vorkai scout ship passed overhead. It dropped a scanning probe. Vex held his breath. He hid under a metal desk. The probe did not detect his low-power battery. It deemed the ruined station empty. The ship flew away. On the 7th day, the console chirped. A registry code appeared on the cracked screen. ECS 7741. Admiral Ussold Vance read the transmission. She sat on the bridge of an 82-meter scout corvette. A loose thruster rattled against the outer hull. She held a chipped ceramic cup. The chip rested exactly against her lower lip. She drank lukewarm tea. Captain Moore stood beside her at the tactical station. He wiped grease from his hands with a rag. The ship's AI spoke through the overhead speakers. "Ship small, tea warm, help offered." Moat chimed again. "Incoming hail, source hostile." Vance tapped a button. Vor's face appeared on her main screen. He smiled. "A single human corvette," Vor said. "Are you lost?" Vance took a sip of tea. No, are you? She cut the feed. Then she looked at Lieutenant Okonkwo. Wake the bulwark. Okonkwo typed a 16-digit sequence into the old console. The Covenant of Ash came online. 3 centuries ago, Earth signed a secret pact with 7 targeted species. No delegate at Selenar Prime knew it existed. The Conclave classified humanity as non-viable. Humanity used that blind spot to dig into the Kuiper Belt. They mined the black rock. They hauled it into deep space. 14 massive signatures decloaked across the Threnari sector. They were 12-kilometer fortresses. The Shepherd, the Long Watch, the Black Wolf, the Sentinel, the Caretaker, the Cradle, the Threshold, the Vigil, the Anchor, the Bastion, the Shield, the Lantern, the Hearth, the Covenant. Vor saw the blips on his main screen. His mandible clicked. He laughed. He keyed his fleet-wide comms. 1 human vessel and some hidden rocks, Vor said. Send the escort to brush it aside. He launched his 3rd hunter group. 44 ships angled toward the Shepherd. They powered their forward shields. They charged their plasma lances. Captain Moore watched their approach on the corvette's screen. He pressed a yellow button. They crossed the engagement line at 1432. At 1433, the Shepherd fired. It did not use lasers. It used a localized gravity shear. The 44 ships crumpled like crushed cans. They turned into drifting scrap in 60 seconds. Vex watched the screen in his ruined station. The enemy count dropped. 312 became 287. He pressed the cold crystal harder against his jaw. Vor ordered his dreadnoughts to return fire. 300 capital ships launched a unified barrage. The energy lances hit the bastion and scattered. The black rock absorbed the heat. It fed the energy directly into the station's reactors. The lantern fired back. A second gravity shear ripped through Vor's left flank. The fleet count dropped to 241, then 198. Vor panicked. He abandoned his blockade. He ordered his captains to execute a full retreat. He pushed 3 of his own cruisers into the line of fire to cover his escape. The cruisers exploded instantly. Okonkwo's amber earring swayed as she tracked his vector. He is running for the Veli's Maw, she said. She typed another command. He is taking the exact path we projected. Captain Moore shifted the corridor's angle. He herded Vor perfectly. Vance picked up her tea. He won't make it. Vor drove his remaining fleet into the only open path. It was a narrow corridor between the Threshold and the Vigil. It stretched for 40 light years. Humanity did not build these stations to shoot standard projectiles. They built spatial geometry. They studied Vorkai battle doctrine for 3 centuries. They knew Vor would retreat down the widest lane. They built a funnel to catch him. At 1647, Vor's dreadnought entered the gap. His tactical implant whirred wildly. It found 14 simultaneous target locks. The walls of the Threshold woke up. The black rock hummed with terrible power. The Kuiper rock shifted. The geometry locked into place. Vor tried to turn the ship. The corridor was too tight. He ordered his engineers to reverse thrust. The thrusters burned out. His bridge crew screamed. A console exploded near the main door. Vor drew his energy pistol. He shot his own main screen in pure frustration. Then the trap closed. They did not negotiate. They did not bend. They cut. Compressed spatial shear ripped through the corridor. It sliced the unyielding Dominion along its weakest armor plates. It broke the massive ship into 6 clean pieces before Vor could touch his comms panel. No signal escaped. The shear hit the rest of the fleet. The metal tore apart in complete silence. The dreadnoughts vanished. The 312th ship entered the sector. There was no 313th. At 1648, the corridor was empty. The fortress reactors dropped to a low hum. They operated at a fraction of a percent. They had waited 3 centuries. They would wait again. Vex stared at the dark screen. The threat was gone. He did not cheer. He held the cold crystal. 6 days later, Vex stood on the shattered crust of his homeworld. Debris streaked across the gray sky. It would fall for 2 centuries. Private Tamaz Reyes walked up the ash-covered slope. A photograph of a dog was taped to his rifle stock. Reyes handed Vex a metal canteen. Vex drank. The water was cold and clean. It tasted like earth. 3 weeks later, a transport landed in the ash. Ambassador Dulcath stepped out. She was the only conclave delegate to come. She walked to the ruins of the Koreth War College. She stood next to Vex. She did not sit. Dulcath looked at the burned sky. "They didn't just protect you," she said. Vex looked down at the dirt. "They built fortresses." He knelt on the ground. He pushed the cobalt blue data crystal deep into the dirt. The soil was warm. For the first time, the crystal felt warm too.